The puzzle of the Bornholm sunstones appears to have been solved. In Lower Austria, East Asia meets Europe. Some early humans had surprising dietary habits. These are the stories I've come across this time, and I'll be covering them below. As always, you'll find all the sources in the video description. Cambridge University Press has presented a study suggesting that the mystery of the Bornholm sunstones may have been solved. A few years ago, hundreds of palm-sized stone slabs were discovered on the Danish island of Bornholm. Engraved with radiating ornaments reminiscent of sun rays, they were intentionally buried in a ritual complex around 4,900 years ago during the Neolithic period. Until now, it wasn't clear why. Because the stones were found in a single thin layer, the researchers believe they were all buried at once, possibly during a specific ritual or event. Nearby, remains of a ritual feast were unearthed. The site, used by the funnel beaker culture, was also surrounded by a wooden palisade. What makes this discovery unique is that it's the only find of its kind in the region, suggesting a one-off event. Now, new insights offer clues about why people might have done this. Sediments and tree rings from Germany, along with ice cores from Greenland, show that around 4,900 years ago, a cold period affected large parts of the northern hemisphere. The cause? The sun was shrouded by hazy skies for an extended time, most likely following two major volcanic eruptions around 2931 BC and 2910 BC. For farmers of the north back then, this would have been a severe blow. Harvests, and therefore survival, depended heavily on sunshine and good weather. According to the researchers, people may have performed a ritual sacrifice of the sunstones in hopes of preventing further climate deterioration. Another possibility is that this ritual was an expression of gratitude for the return of the sun after the cold spell triggered by the volcanoes. Archaeologists also suggest these volcanic eruptions likely contributed to the end of the funnel beaker culture in Scandinavia. It's notable that soon afterward, the funnel beaker culture gave way to the corded ware culture, marking the transition from the Neolithic to the early Bronze Age. Nature has published a study on the topic where East Asia meets Europe in Lower Austria. That headline sounds pretty quirky, doesn't it? What could Lower Austria possibly have to do with East Asia, especially when even the outer edge of Western Asia is about 1,000 kilometers away? It's all about people who lived in the 8th century in what is now Lower Austria. Researchers genetically analyzed the remains of over 700 individuals unearthed in two burial sites. One is in Hötling, about 14 kilometers southwest of Vienna, and the other is in Leobersdorf, about 32 kilometers southwest of Vienna. The findings surprised not just the archaeologists. The people in Leobersdorf were primarily of East Asian origin. The people in modeling had mostly European ancestry. This situation wasn't just a blip, it persisted for at least 6 generations. We also know who those East Asians in Leobersdorf were. They were Avars, who migrated from the East Asian steppes in the 6th century and settled in East Central Europe. Interestingly, there was almost no genetic overlap between the two communities, yet the artifacts suggest their ways of life were very similar. So, in the 8th century, and for several generations, East Asia truly did meet Europe in Lower Austria. A study has been published in the magazine Science reporting on surprising dietary habits among certain early human ancestors. It's generally agreed that eating animal protein was a major driver in human evolution as we shifted from a mainly plant-based diet to hunting and gathering. However, it's still unclear exactly when and in which early human ancestor this change took place. We have evidence suggesting that Homo erectus hunted animals as far back as around 2 million years ago, but it's debated whether its predecessors already had a meat-based diet. One such predecessor was the Australopithecus genus, which lived in southern and eastern Africa some 3 million years ago. Although they made tools, it's unknown whether these were used for hunting. Now, researchers have taken a step closer to solving this puzzle by analyzing the tooth enamel of 7 Australopithecus fossils from South Africa, dating between 3.3 and 3.7 million years old. The properties of these teeth match those typically found in plant eaters, suggesting that these early humans ate very little, if any, meat. But they certainly weren't vegans. They did get animal protein from things like bird eggs and termites. This source of nourishment provided key nutrients without the risks of hunting. According to the study's authors, These findings make it clear that early forms of Australopithecus in South Africa had not yet adopted the typically human diet. Whether this was true for all members of that genus remains uncertain, especially for those living in East Africa, such as Australopithecus afarensis, the species that includes the famous Lucy. Did you already know about these research findings? If not, you'll definitely come across more fascinating news in this video.